You know, living in Montgomery has been a very interesting journey.
Yes.
And along the way, we have met some people that are definitely keepers. And this couple, their last name is Ball, and they are on the ball.
Yeah, that's a good
We
one.
have Jasmine and Chris Ball, and they're going to share their love story with us.
And that's going to be coming up next on this episode of the Rich Relationship Podcast with Gil and Renee. Welcome to the Rich Relationship Podcast with Gil
and Renee, where amazing things happen. Our goal is to help build, repair, and restore healthy relationships.
Our primary focus is on the marriage relationship. However, the topics are applicable to the relationships that we value most. Remember, we're stronger together.
Let's grow.
Well, this is an awesome episode that we're going to be talking to Jasmine and Christopher. First, we want to say thank you guys for joining us.
No, thank you for having us.
This is fun because we were talking offline before we started the episode, and I said, I remember them because you guys moved away from us.
Yeah, I'd say that was one of our most life-changing experiences.
Oh,
Brooke, too.
That's awesome. Well, save it for the episode so you can tell all our listeners about you.
So tell us where you are now and a little bit about your love story, how you met, and how this whole Ball love story began.
I guess I'll explain. Yeah, so we are currently living in Knoxville, Tennessee. And Chris and I met in high school. We met 10 years ago, and it's actually quite interesting because I met him senior year, didn't even know he existed the whole time I was in high school. And we come back from Christmas break, and I never go in the cafeteria for breakfast. And this particular day, I went into the cafeteria for breakfast because after Christmas break, they changed the policies. And so we were no longer allowed to enter in through the front of the building. Long story short, I'm in the cafeteria, and the stranger comes up to ask if he could see my book. I had a science book.
I guess this is the part where I come in, because you might wonder, why would I ask her for a science book? And it was a very legit reason. There was a particular word I was interested in, and spoiler, the word was monocot.
Wait, say that again. What was the word?
Monocot.
Monocot.
So there's monocots and there's dicots in biology, particularly when you're talking about plants. And it's just mostly talking about a stem structure.
Wait. That has got to be the most interesting pickup line I have ever heard.
You got skills, Christopher.
Jasmine, how did you take that when he came up with that line? Did you what is this all about?
Well, see, that's the thing. It's because I was in a place in my life where I knew that I wanted to expand my friendship circle, because I realized that iron sharpens iron, and I was the smartest one of the people I was hanging out with. So I was open to meeting new people at the time, so it was interesting. However, when he approached me, I was thinking, because at first when he started to come up to me, I for sure thought he was about to try and holler at me, try and ask me out. But he didn't even address me in that way. He just said, hey, can I borrow your book? And I let him see the book. He got it, walked away to wherever he was sitting, read the book, whatever he needed to find, came back 5 minutes later and gave me my book back and was about to walk away again. So I was just like, oh, so he wasn't trying to talk to me.
And that's the part.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I'm sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to cut you off, but go ahead now. I wanted you to pick up the story where you were at.
I definitely need to explain myself.
Oh, yeah.
So, that I was very genuine with that, and I only wanted to know the word. I really wasn't interested in pursuing a relationship aggressively. But I did realize that motion was very rude, and I did think to at least ask her what her name was, or, a little bit of personal information. How old are you? And I think from there, that's when everything started to evolve, when you start figuring out that you have commonalities with people. One of the things I was interested in that time was something called numerology. And I'm a very inquisitive person. So being a young person, I was definitely interested in the horoscopes and numerology. And when I did the the horoscope and the numerology behind it, we had the same number. And I found that to be very interesting.
Yeah, and also, because he brought up numerology, so he sat down, we just started talking and realized we had a lot in common, like he just shared. And when he brought up numerology, that was something new that I was just learning more about. So it fascinated me that he knew about it because I literally was just learning about it. So we just talked more about things, and we learned that we had a lot in common as it relates to family. We were both the youngest of our siblings. We both had a lot of nieces and nephews. We both, it was just a lot of different things that we had in common, like he shared, so yeah.
I was going to say, so the bell rings, and after this long conversation, I figured it was only right to ask her for a number and continue the conversation and get to know each other.
There the moves go. I like that part. There you go.
Slow introduction.
So how long did it take before you realized you guys was there like an initial chemistry, or did it grow over time?
Well, so this was January, and he started to catch my attention because I noticed he would listen. So my sister's birthday was, I think, the same week we met, and he asked, and I think I brought that up some way or another, and he asked when my birthday was, and my birthday was 10 days later. And on my birthday, he just surprised me with this card he made in art class that he painted like a flower and wrote a poem. And then he also got me my favorite candy bar, which was Kit Kat. So, it was just nice little things he would do, and we just would talk for hours on the phone, and we just got to know each other from there. And in February, we went on our first date, and we just were talking casually, just to get to know each other. And we became official, meaning like we decided to be in a relationship later that year in August. So from January to August was like the courtship, I guess.
So, Christopher, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned something that you guys had in common. So how would you explain, or could you elaborate on that for our listeners about why is that so important when you start dating someone?
Oh, it makes just everything so much easier, because say that you're exploring new grounds in a conversation with a person, you'll eventually run out of things to talk about. Because if I'm talking about something like football or kickboxing and she has no interest in those things, it deads the conversation. So you can always fall back to things that you do like. It opens up the grounds to more things to talk about. So you can kind of branch out from your commonalities, and that's why it's so important to have those things.
One of the things I noticed about you, Christopher, when we first met was you are a deep thinker. And it's so good. You kind of mentioned how you and Jasmine are different. But the thing is that I think you guys are both deep thinkers. I think that Jasmine, it probably expresses hers with writing, and yours is more in thought. What would be something that you would say about your personalities being different that has been a struggle for the two of you?
It would.
Can I say it?
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
Well, I love going out. He loves staying in. That is, I would say, the biggest difference. He is content with the air conditioner, food, and a video game. And I love, like, getting glammed up and going out and traveling, going on adventures. But that is definitely a difference between us. Like, I like to explore the world with, like, externally. He likes to explore the world internally.
Go ahead, Christopher. Did you want to add on to that one?
I think that's pretty good. I was going to say that the main difference that I noticed in us is just our speculation on life. I guess when I was younger, I did a lot of traveling. I guess it took away a lot of the wonder. I didn't travel like way to country, but I started noticing things. No matter how far I went, I could find something that was always the same. And I think during the time, Jasmine probably didn't have as much of exposure. She went places like Cleveland, or she went to
that's one thing I noticed. Like, our childhoods were a lot different. His dad was a truck driver, so he, was on the road with his dad, across the nation while he's driving trucks. And I was born in Selma, Alabama, which is a super small town. And, it's a country. I call myself a country girl. And I love, like, outdoor anything. So, like, going on rivers and boats and hiking and backpacking and all kinds of, horseback riding, all kinds of different things out outdoors, and he likes.
Yeah, I think the most outdoor I did is probably kickboxing and exercising. But the second I go into the woods or something like that, it clicks danger mode. So again, snakes, bears, mountain lions, anything, I would want to be prepared for it. So it definitely takes me a lot longer mentally to get prepared than her. She's just, let's go. And I start thinking of what ifs. And I think that's something that we always are working to improve at.
Well, I love and it's important that we understand that we're not going to be married to someone just like us. We're going to be different. Tell us about your engagement and the big day when you guys actually got married.
So, engagement in terms of, I'm assuming a proposal?
Yeah, how did you do it?
I tend to I like the simple approach to things to give more value to it. My particular approach for proposal was during the time when we were still dating and things like that. One of the things that we did was I would go to work, and after work, I would go over her mom. But obviously, I couldn't stay in. I couldn't be in her house. So when it was time to go, it would be somewhere around 2 or 3 o'clock. And some of those times I either would walk home or I would just sleep outside. And one of those days when I would sleep outside, she would wake me up and, of course, we would go get something to eat. And the one thing that we ate was, that one particular time was Domino's pizza. Of course, after that, I had to go home and take a shower.
Can I back up to Chris?
Absolutely.
So what he's talking about is, remember I said, he was courting me from that January all the way through August before we became official.
Right.
Okay.
So we were, still in high school. What I would notice, because I was open to dating multiple people. Like I wasn't really focused on one being in a serious relationship. But what made him stand out for me was I would notice, we're in high school, he didn't have a car, but he was willing to walk across town or to see me. If he couldn't get a ride back home, he was willing to sleep outside, and I didn't even know he was sleeping outside.
Wow.
I was like, wait, are you here? But he was like, I couldn't get a ride home. And I didn't, so I would notice that he was willing to go above and beyond and do anything just to see me. And that meant a lot to me. And this is high school, so I just wanted to preface that. And then he proposed. We got engaged after we graduated college 5 years later. So
yes. So thank you so much for clearing that up.
It's okay. We got it.
Yes, you got me. So it's the symbology of that always made me think of those times of where I would literally do anything I could for her, was symbolized by that one particular day that I could remember. And it was something different that we ate. We ate a Domino's pizza with tomatoes and mushrooms. So I tried to make this particular day as normal as possible. And when she opened the box, the ring was in it. It's the most elaborate thing ever. And thinking about it, I know I have to redo it, but I figured that was the most genuine thing that I can do to symbolize that engagement.
And the thing about it was, we went to pick up the pizza together. So I was like, how did you even get a ring?
That's so cool.
Right here, because we picked it up at the carry out. He passes me the pizza, so I'm holding it the whole time. I'm like, wait, when did you get a ring in here? So that still boggles my mind. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm not telling.
You keeping your secret, huh? That's your secret.
I'm keeping that a secret forever.
That is so beautiful.
Well, you can share that, how you did it. You sound like you're in the magic, too. So we're going to be interested to hear some more about you guys' story. We're talking to Chris and Jasmine Ball on the Rich Relationship Podcast with Gil and Renee. Gil and Renee Beaver's over 30-year relationship is the genesis for the Rich Relationship Podcast, which is designed to empower individuals with the tools, principles, and the community needed to unpack ourselves, our past, and our preconceived notions associated with relationships.
Let's get empty and grow together so that our lives will be filled with love and healthy, rich relationships. Now let's go into our show.
Now, I am really, really interested to hear the rest of this story. Now, I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. I want to know, Chris, how did you get this ring in the box? And Jasmine, after he finishes telling that, what was your impression of the whole proposal route?
Okay, so you want me to reveal the truth?
Yeah, absolutely.
Put the drum rolls on.
Use the cell phones. So I would do things like tell my mother to call her and just have a random conversation. And during the time while she's getting out, I told her I would get the pizza and bring it in. By the whole time where she would, my mother would be overtly happy to see her.
Distracting her.
Yes, distraction is literally, I forget what they call it.
Misdirection.
There you go, the art of misdirection.
Wow. So now, Jasmine, you know the mystery of how the ring got in the pizza box.
So you actually sound like you didn't know how it happened.
She didn't.
Perfect.
I really didn't. I guess I didn't really pay it that much attention because I wasn't thinking about anything happening. So it just was like, wait, isn't then when I opened it, because I'm just normal about to get a slice, and I'm like, wait, huh?
That's beautiful. That is beautiful.
So then, of course, you drop them in front of the family. You hit the proposal.
So what did you think, Jasmine, about the proposal? What was your thoughts going through your mind when you seen the ring?
Well, I was like, about time, because we've been together for a long time, and I was getting anxious a little. Well, not really a little anxious, but I was been ready. So I'm like, what are we doing here?
I guess
like,
that
where
leads
is
to
this
another
going?
conversation.
Go ahead.
This is pretty memory. So within a 3-year mark, she locked me into an agreement. She said in the car one day, if we were to get married, when exactly would you put a time limit on it? At what particular time would you say that we would get married? I made the general saying, after you graduate from college.
Wonderful.
And I put a date on it at that point.
Wonderful.
Did you know you were time stamping it, or did you kind of get a sense of like, I got this amount of time to get my stuff the way I want it?
Exactly. Because, I had this whole idea of what I wanted, especially during marriage. I didn't definitely want to be a married man at my mother's house. And I definitely didn't want to still be trying to figure my life out. So I definitely wanted to be a little bit later on. But when she said that, like you said, she timestamped it. And I didn't know until she was like, I'm about to graduate.
And there was talk also about shacking up, and I don't believe in that. So
right.
I was like, well, I'm not going to move in with you. We're not married. So if we were to,
Yeah, that's wise.
You guys have displayed and just communicated some awesome principles, just like you just said about cohabitating together. You didn't believe in it. Chris, you were just saying you wanted to have certain things in order with your life before you made that long-term commitment. What was the driving factor for you to make those things, even though Jasmine kind of time-stamped it for you, or you time-stamped it yourself? What was it that made you say, you know what, this is the time for me to get things in order the way I want them to be? Was there something that really stimulated that thought process?
Well, what would have stimulated the thought process for me is that, truthfully, I didn't want to be in my mother's house. But, being a teenager, I never thought to go live with someone else or, be a roommate with anyone else or even pursue my own apartment. I was thinking more along the lines of financial stability. I didn't want to just go live somewhere and spend an excess amount of money when I can just, live with my mother essentially for room and board or whatever the cost of that was. That was mostly the motivation for it. I guess the second thing about it was just privacy. My mother and family has a knack for not knocking on doors and things like that. And I just couldn't build a great picture in my head. My mother's a very Christian woman as well. So I have a lot of those roots built up into me as well. I think traditionally having those things, it forces the type of, interactions to take place.
So how long after the proposal did you guys actually wait until you guys got married? How long was your engagement?
It was very short. It was short. I would say less than 2 months, right? Because we kind of already, we've been together for so long, and we already had different connections as far as his mom has a leadership position in the church, and so we just got married at his mom's church, and it was pretty quick just because we knew what we wanted, and also we wanted to have it around the same day as our relationship's anniversary, just to keep it, it was a special day. And
yeah, and I think a lot of our friends and families also contributed to it too. And
yeah,
made a big thing.
Yeah, we had us who were doing the catering, and his mom is a baker, so she made the wedding cake.
2 wedding cakes.
Yeah, and so we just had a lot of, I guess people who were ready as well, and so it was a family affair that everyone was kind of okay, let's go ahead and do it.
That is beautiful. So tell us now. So now, you know, you were married, you guys were living in Alabama, and now recently you guys have, you said, Christopher said there's a major change in your life. You guys just moved from where you grew up to a new city and just had a new baby. So tell us what that's like for you guys and, you know, the highs and the lows.
Well, so Christopher had multiple different occupations throughout, our relationship, and he did a little bit of everything from like being a corrections officer to doing IT to doing like all kinds of different. He did the truck driving type of job.
Yes, delivery of pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, he did a lot of different things. He knew that he's a scientist. That's you
can hear it,
right?
Yes, he is.
Remember, that's how we met, from a science book, and that's his passion. He does it. His little at-home experiments all the time. So that's his passion. So, he was really on track to go to school for science and pursue that as a career. So I told him I would support him in that and wherever that would lead him. Meanwhile, I'm, working in corporate America, and I knew when we got married that if we were going to start a family, I didn't want to be in a corporate career job, and balance motherhood, because I just didn't see how I would have a life.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to be a work at home mom. So that's why, so the same year actually we got married. We got married in August, and we actually started the idea for the magazine in October and of that same year. And so it kind of started from like a passion type of project where I just jumped into it because me being a writer, I felt a conviction to use my skills and talents to help serve our culture and community, just based on what was going on in the nation. But then I also saw it as an opportunity to be able to fulfill my dream of being a work at home mom. So I started to, take it on as a side business, and, one thing led to another. And, I was able to retire from a corporate job in 2018, 3 years into our marriage. And last year, he got a job offer that relocated us to Tennessee, where he's now working in a national lab. So, to do his science. So that's why we're in Tennessee right now.
That's great when you say that, because what I hear from you guys is how you guys continually support each other, whether it's you with your magazine and relocating and from corporate America to being a stay-home mom, and Chris, you, just like when we initially met, I watched you supporting your wife doing her ventures. How important is it to support each other and their dreams and aspirations and goals when you decide to go from being a single person to becoming a married couple?
Oh man, I say that I think this is the real crux of the talk here. And I think it's the key to stabilizing a relationship, because initially when you're courting and things like that, everything's all fun. You have butterflies and that person can do no wrong. But as time goes on, you develop the familiarity with one another. And a lot of things that was generally overlooked, they tend to not be overlooked anymore. Now you have a scrutiny on both sides of the families. You have positions and expectations and the roles of the relationship. It's a lot of things, and from there it starts to generate pressure. And I think that itself defines you of who you're going to be. For example, I think the biggest thing was, to me at that point, is that I'm going from job to job. And in all these jobs, I couldn't see myself there more than 10 years. What made me leave each one of my jobs was ironically, the same thing. A person would come up to me after talking, and they would say, "I don't know why you're here." And that echoed in my mind so much, I would literally just quit the job the next day. And I had to reevaluate myself. And that's what ultimately drove me to go to school for initially biochemistry at first. I knew I wanted to be a chemist because I basically sat down and thought of what job could I do in science that would have the most versatility in real life application. Thank you so much. That I can use, even if all the lights were to turn off, or we just went out and lived in the wilderness. Chemistry just tended to be one of those things that I can use, not knowing that it's actually one of the hardest sciences to go to school for. I went there, and I literally, within my first 2 years, I think we had a class of 200 people in our chemistry program at Alabama State University, the Alabama State University.
Got to give a shout out.
Go ahead, give a shout out.
And we started off with something like 200 people. By the next year, it dropped down to 100. By my third year there, it was somewhere between 50 people in the chemistry program. My last class there, it was a total of around 6 to 7 people, and only 3 people graduated.
Wow.
Yeah. So
The cream always rises to the top.
Exactly. It's a pinnacle at the top. I'll say it's a very small platform.
Yeah, I always say there's lots of room up here.
Oh, yes. And one of the things about it is during this time, how I supplemented myself is I used my student loans to as living expenses. And I also, I worked in a lab. They don't pay you that much to do that. But I worked in a research lab with Dr. Cleon Barnett. He was my mentor. Mm-hmm. And he's the one that really pushed me to say that, hey, you need to be going to these conferences. Hey, you need to be doing speaking engagements. Hey, you need to be building up your portfolio with these experiments, push out research papers. You need to also think about internships. And after completing all these different trials, I think I published 2 research papers.
And international science publications, by the way.
Yeah. That is so amazing.
And I did somewhere around 8 presentations on research in my bachelor's program, and I did 2 internships, if not 3. I can't remember my third one, but I know for a fact it was 2 of them. Florida Agriculture and
FAMU.
Yeah, there you go. And the second one at my current job at a nuclear facility. And it was Dr. Barnett who got me that second internship.
That's amazing to hear. With Jasmine, I noticed that you even supporting him, even
such a cheerleader,
even during his interview. How was that transition for you from a mom's perspective? Was there anything that was challenging for you as you went from, like you said, coming from corporate America and watching Chris soar to great heights in his career? How was that for you during that transition time?
Well, I believed in him, and I knew that it was a short-term, I guess, sacrifice that we were making for our family. And, so I had his back because I believed in him. And
what I love about just the two of you, and I interacted with you and watched you. We were in the magazine. Black Tie magazine was excellent. Just professional and the people you had as a part of your team. But it's just so beautiful to see a young couple really be on the ball. I mean, no pun intended. And to really want to see each other do well and not to compete. What would be something you would say to a younger couple who is just starting out? Some of the tools you guys use to help a couple to really learn how to maneuver when you say when the butterflies are gone and when you leave the toilet seat up. What would be something you would share with them that would really help them in their marriage and their relationship?
Many couples who, I guess, struggle with their relationship, what I found was that a big thing for us is trust. And that's something that we established early on, was having this undeniable trust for each other, which eased a lot of the, I guess, frustration or a lot of the friction that can come in relationships, because we have this undeniable trust between each other where we can lean back and know, I know who he is at his heart, at his soul, at his spirit. And I know that he's got my back, I got his back. We saw each other. We see each other as a team. We say it all the time, we're a team.
Yeah, most definitely. I think biggest thing for us was trust. Like I said, I would go on 10-week internships, in a whole nother state, in a whole city I'd never been into before. And all we had was video calls and phone calls. I would have to find an arrangement to go back down there and visit, but it'll only be for a day or so. So that took the greatest deal of trust. I didn't do this just once, but twice. So imagine, a person that you've been with for 5 years, you just not at their bedside anymore. You're not talking to this person in person anymore. I think that's the real test of time. My opinion to a younger person who's in a relationship, I'm talking from the male perspective, of course, I would tell that person, don't enter into a relationship with a person if you're not prepared to be in it forever.
Yeah.
You should always have in mind making it work with this person. And I think that way it kind of trains you for when you have a child that, regardless of which, that you're going to be with this person no matter what. You set that boundary up. And that's what's worked for us so far.
Yeah, and I will also add this and say we had a goal that we shared together, and we were focusing on building. That was our motto. Like, we need to focus on building before we start a family, or before we do this, or before we do that. So that was like, that's what we were doing. Like, he was focusing on getting into a career that he could actually see as a career, which was being a chemist, a scientist.
Yeah.
And so, going to school for it, getting training and getting experience and for that. And then I was focusing on building a business. We were just focused on building. That was what we were doing as a team, as a collective. That was our goal that we're both working on through whatever paths we took.
This has been so refreshing. We talked to a lot of couples in this past year and a half, and you guys are doing amazing things together as a couple and together, and it is so awesome to hear. And you can hear it in just your answers and your response that you guys really are team ball.
Yeah. You guys can use that.
and that's awesome to hear. And as we close this episode on the Rich Relationship Podcast with Gil and Renee, what are you guys up to, Jasmine? Are you still doing the magazine on the side, or I know you have your own business now? If people want to reach out to you, how can they reach you and support what you guys are doing and just get in touch with you?
Yeah. So as for me, so I've been a copywriter. This is what I went to school for. This is what I did in corporate America, just being a copywriter and content marketer, and I currently do that now for businesses. That's something that I started doing alongside the magazine, was offering content and copywriting services to those entrepreneurs who are coming to me for advertising, helping them on the back end with making sure that their content for their website and email and social media was active and being able to attract, nurture, and compel their ideal clients to take action with them. So I still currently do that as far as offering those copywriting services to businesses. So people can find me on Facebook. I'm on for any social media platform. It's Jasmine the Writer. That's where you can find me. And I always share tips as far as for people who want to pursue entrepreneurship full-time, and as well as tips to get copywriting tips and content marketing tips to help you grow your business and get set up for success online.
Chris, what did you want to share? How could people get in touch with you, the scientists?
I was just gonna just briefly speak. One of the things that I do is I kickbox for not only for exercise but for mental. It's like a refreshing of the mind for me. So that's what I do in my offhand time. Another thing I do is I do at-home experiments. I started off very amateur-like first, but I really stepped up and invested in legitimate chemistry equipment as well as video recording information. Oh. And what I wanted to do eventually was create my own series on YouTube, walking people through what's it like to do chemistry, and hopefully, inspire some other people to do it as well, because there aren't many people pursuing this path. And I think it's very useful, a very useful skill to have, and it's very different. Not only that, it's very supplementing to your life to have this skill.
So you can be, now that you've had a mentor, you can be a mentor on YouTube. I think that's great.
That's awesome. Again, thank you guys for hanging out with us. As we like to say, investing your time with us. We really appreciate you guys.
Okay, thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
And just remember, guys, we are stronger together.
Let's grow.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for your investment in time. Remember to subscribe to the show and hit the notification icon to be notified when new episodes are posted on the podcast platform that you're listening from.
Or you can always find us on our website at richrelationshipsus.com or our YouTube channel, Rich Relationships with Gil and Renee. If you found this podcast helpful, or you think it could help someone that you know and care about, please pass it along and share it with them.
And also, you can always send your questions and comments to richrelationships.us@gmail.com. This is a weekly podcast, and the new episodes are going to be posted on Monday by 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Remember, we're stronger together.
Let's grow.